Hi guys. Okay, so I found Miss Feddersen. She was off my map for a while, but that's because she had to go and take some supplies to a student's house, and then she popped back up. Want to say hi?
Hey guys! We're just cleaning the whole school, making sure it's ready to go when you come back. I can't wait to see you. We really miss you a lot. All right, do good jobs. See ya!
I solemnly swear I am up to no good. All right, we are back with Chapter 7. Now, think about the breadcrumbs of clues for signpost moments that Wendell has gone through. At the end of Chapter 6, boys and girls, you'll remember, if you don't remember, I'm reminding you, that Harvey says, "All right," he said, allowing himself a tiny smile. "There'll be other nights, like after his bad experience with Halloween." "Always," says Wendell. The reply pleased him. "That's what this place is," he said as the light went out. "It's the house of always." Let that one sink in, right? All right, Chapter 7 is from past to present, because if you think, we've gone through spring in the morning, summer in the afternoon, autumn at night, and now, hint, hint, what time is it? Time for winter, okay? So, there was a Thanksgiving feast awaiting them when they got back in the house. "You look as though you've been in the wars," Miss Griffin remarked when she set eyes on Harvey. "Has Wendell been up to his tricks again?" Harvey admitted that he'd fallen for all of them, but there was one that impressed him in particular. "What was that?" said Wendell with a smug grin, because of course Wendell's happy that he scared the bejesus out of Harvey, right? "The falling ladder? That was a clever little touch, wasn't it?" "No, not the ladder," said Harvey. "Well, what then?" "The thing in the sky." "Oh, that. What was that? A kite?" "Well, that wasn't my doing," Wendell replied. "What was it then?" "Oh, I don't know," Wendell said, his smile disappearing. "Better not ask, eh? Remember, we don't ask questions in the house." "But I want to know," Harvey insisted, turning to Miss Griffin. "It had wings, and I think it flew off the roof." "Then it was a bat," said Mrs. Griffin. "No, this was 100 times bigger than a bat." And he spread his arms. "Great dark wings." Mrs. Griffin frowned as Harvey spoke. "You imagined it," she said. "I did not," Harvey protested. "Why don't you just sit down and eat?" Miss Griffin replied. "If it wasn't a bat, then it wasn't anything at all." Mrs. Wendell saw it too. Oh, sorry, excuse me, not Mrs. Wendell. But Wendell saw it too, didn't you, Wendell? He looked around at the other boy, who was digging into a steaming pile of turkey and cranberry sauce. "Who cares?" Wendell said, chewing as he spoke. "Just tell her you saw it." Wendell shrugged. "Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. It's Halloween night. There's supposed to be boogeymen out there." "But not real ones," said Harvey. "A trick's one thing, but if that beast was real?" As he spoke, he realized that he was breaking the rule he'd made on the porch. Whether the winged creature was real or not, it didn't matter. This was a place of illusions. Wouldn't he be happier here if he just stopped questioning what was real and what wasn't real? "Sit down and eat," said Mrs. Griffin. Harvey shook his head. His appetite had disappeared. He was angry, though he wasn't quite sure at whom. Remember, this is one of his multiple problems, is he doesn't know who the haunter is yet. But he didn't know to whom. Maybe at Wendell, maybe that's who he was mad at for his shrugs, or at Mrs. Griffin for not believing him. Or maybe he was mad at himself for being afraid of all the illusions, and maybe all three. "I'm going to go up to my room and change," he said. He left the kitchen. He discovered Lulu on the landing, staring out the window. Wind gusted against the glass, reminding Harvey of Rictus's first visit. It wasn't rain the gusts you were bringing, however, it was powdery snow. "It'll soon be Christmas," she said. "Will it?" "Oh, there'll be presents for everyone. There always are. You should wish for something." "Is that what you're doing?" She shook her head. "No," she said. "I've been here so long, I've gotten everything I ever wanted. Would you like to see?" Harvey said yes, and she led him up the stairs to her room, which was immense, which means huge, and filled with all her treasures. She obviously had a passion for boxes. Tiny jeweled boxes, large carved boxes, a box for her collection of glass balls, a box that played tinkling music, a box in which 100 smaller boxes fit. She also had several families of dolls who sat in blank-faced rows all around the walls. But more impressive by far was the house from which the dolls had been exiled. It stood in the middle of the room, 5 feet high from step to chimney top. Every detail of brick, slate, and sill was perfect. "This is where I keep my friends," Lulu said, and she opened the front door. And 2 bright green lizards came out to greet her, scurrying, up her arms and onto her shoulders. "The rest are inside. Take a look." Harvey peered through the windows and found that every perfect room in the house was occupied. There were lizards lounging on the beds, lizards snoozing in the baths, lizards swinging from the chandeliers. She laughed out loud at their antics. "Aren't they fun?" Lulu said. "Great," he replied. "You can come up and play with them anytime you want." "Thanks," said Harvey. "They're really very friendly. They only bite when they're hungry. Here!" And she plucked one off her shoulder and dropped it into Harvey's hands. It promptly ran up and perched on his head, much to Lulu's amusement. They enjoyed the company of both the lizards and each other for a long while, until Harvey caught a glimpse of his reflection in one of the windows, and he remembered what a sight he was. "I better go wash up," he told Lulu. "I'll see you later." She smiled at him. "I like you, Harvey Swick," she said. Her honesty made him honest. "I like you too," he told her, and then his expression darkening, he said, "I wouldn't want anything to happen to you." And she looked puzzled. "I saw you at the lake," he said. "Oh, did you?" she replied. "I don't remember." "Well, anyway, it's deep. You should be careful. You could slip and fall in." "Oh, I'll be careful," she said as he opened the door. "Oh, and Harvey, yes, don't forget to wish for something." What shall I ask for, he wondered as he washed the dirt off his face. Something impossible, maybe, to see just how much magic this house possessed. A white tiger, perhaps? A full-size Zeppelin? A ticket to the moon? The answer came from the depths of his memory. He'd wished for a present that he'd been given and lost a very long time ago. A present that his father had made for him, which Mr. Hood, however much he might want to please his new guest, would never be able to duplicate. "The Ark," he murmured. And with his face washed and the scratches he'd gotten from the thorns in the thicket worn like war wounds, he headed back downstairs to find that once again, the house had performed an extraordinary transformation. A Christmas tree, so tall that the star at its summit pricked the ceiling, stood in the hallway, the color of its twinkling lights seeping into every room. And there was the smell of chocolate in the air, the sounds of carols being sung. In the living room, Mrs. Griffin was sitting beside a roaring fire with Stew Cat pouring on her lap. "Wendell's gone outside," she told Harvey. "There's a scarf and gloves for you by the front door." Harvey went out onto the porch. The wind was icy, but it was already clearing the snow clouds, leaving the stars to shine down on a perfect white carpet. Not quite perfect. A trail of tracks led down from the house to the spot where Wendell was building a snowman. "Coming out?" he hollered to Harvey, his voice as clear as the bells were that were ringing through the crisp air. Harvey shook his head. He was so tired, even the snow looked comfortable. "Maybe tomorrow," he said. "It'll be back tomorrow, won't it?" "Of course," said Wendell. "And the night after, and the night after, and the night after." Harvey went back inside to look at the Christmas tree. Its branches were hung with strings of popcorn and cranberries, with colorful lights and baubles and soldiers in gleaming silver uniforms. "There's something under the tree for you," Miss Griffin said, standing at the living room door. "I hope it's what you want, sweet." Harvey kneeled down, pulled a parcel with his name on it out from under the tree. His pulse quickened before he even opened it, because he knew from its shape and from the way it rattled that his wish had been answered. He pulled at the string, remembering as he did so how much littler his hands had been the first time he'd held this gift. The paper tore and fell away, and there, shiny and brand new, was a painted wooden ark. It was a perfect copy of the one that his father had made. The same yellow hull, the same orange prow, the same wheelhouse with holes in its red roof for the giraffes to put their heads through, the same lead animals all in pairs, snug in the hold and peering through the portholes, 2 dogs, 2 elephants, 2 camels, 2 doves, all of these and a dozen more, and finally the same little Noah with his square white beard and his fat wife, complete with an apron. How did he know? Harvey murmured. He hadn't intended the question to be heard, much less answered, but Mrs. Griffin said, Mr. Hood knows every dream in your head. This is perfect, Harvey said in amazement. Look, my dad ran out of blue paint when he was finishing the elephants, so one of them has blue eyes and the other has green eyes. It's the same. It's exactly the same. Does it please you then? Said Miss Griffin, or asked Miss Griffin. Harvey said it did, but that wasn't entirely true. It was eerie to have the ark back in his hands when he knew that the real one had been lost long ago, as though time had been turned on its heels and he was a little kid again. He heard Wendell stamping the snow off his feet at the front door and was suddenly embarrassed to have such a childish present in his hands. He gathered it up in its wrappings and hurried away upstairs, intending to head back down for some supper. But his bed looked too welcoming to be refused, and his stomach felt quite full enough for one night. So instead, he closed his curtains on the gusty night and laid his head down on his pillow. The Christmas bells were still ringing in some distant steeple, and their repetition lulled him into sleep. He dreamed that he was standing on the steps of his house, looking through the open door into its warm heart. And then the wind caught hold of him, turning him from the threshold and carrying him away into a dreamless sleep. Chapter 8 is a good one. We'll read this next. It's titled Hungry Waters. Look at these fish. Ugh. Till next time, my friends.